Hello and welcome back to my garden. Today there's a super important thing to discuss, and that's soil health. And actually usually when we're talking about soil health and actually health of the garden itself, we're thinking about homemade compost, but that's only one step out of 5. And today I want to go through all of them, all 5 steps how to prepare your soil for the new gardening season. And yes, I don't believe that you can overrate the importance of homemade compost. That's why I have just so many of compost bins. But first you need to prepare your soil. And I don't believe actually that any gardener can have enough compost to support all the planting areas in the garden. So there are the other ways how you make your soil be productive for the season without using compost or using compost on top of that. But let's start from the beginning. And sometimes it feels like soil health and soil care are overly complicated, and you need to know everything, your soil structure, the analysis, everything to grow an onion. And I do believe that you can actually simplify all the things. For example, you can look for your weeds, and usually it's rather accurate indication of what type of soil you have in your garden. And actually here, there's gonna be a table with the soil types and common weeds that you can find in your garden, and that's gonna be enough for you to take an action. Then if you're gardening not for the first year, probably you see some of the disease. And some of the disease are actually caused by the soil condition in your garden. And again, there are rather accurate markers that you can follow and get the idea what your soil actually needs. And then another thing that, yes, compost is a beautiful thing. Yes, mulch is a beautiful thing. Fertilizer is a great thing. And actually altogether, they're working absolutely magic. Sometimes it's just not realistic to get everything that you need in your garden in one season. So I really like these 5 steps because it breaks down the whole structure of what you need to do. And actually it makes your decision making is rather easy because you know what exactly you need to do for each and every area of your garden. And then you comply as many steps as you can. And you need to be just realistic about it. And then another thing that I'm not too harsh on myself, on me, about all these chemicals and all these natural fertilizers and artificial ones, just because I'm breaking up my garden onto bigger zones. Some with edibles where I'm not using chemicals, and another one is for decoration. And yes, compost is too valuable for me. So I won't be using it on some of the areas, and on the others I will apply it as much as I can. And it just streamlines the thought process and makes my life really easy. And yes, the step number 1 in your soil preparation is actually weeding. Let's start. And weeding as a part of preparation for the season is essential part because in the basis weeds are the same plant, and if you will feed them, if you will amend the soil, then they will get this advantage of growing faster because they're already on the surface. So some of the plants are waiting to wake up, and weeds are ready to receive all the nutrition that you will put into the area. And well weeding is not the most exciting process, but actually this step will allow you to minimize the weed pressure for the whole season. So I do believe that it's quite worth it. And even if your grown areas are not that overgrown with weeds, I do believe that it's still a good idea to go through them with a hula hoop, for example, and just to remove anything that's popping up before it becomes a bigger problem. Oh, and actually these weeds are the perfect materials to start a new compost bin. And now weeding is done. So that's the time for step 2, and that's putting soil amendments into the ground. And usually for this garden, I'm using calcium, but you might be adding phosphorus, magnesium, or any other thing in the ground, depending on your soil type. And yes, please remember about this table with the weeds and soil types. That's quite accurate. So you need to put the elements that your soil needs right now. And that's what we're gonna be doing. And right now, that's the time for step 3, and that's, yes, chemical fertilizers. And you can apply them or not, utilize in your garden or not, but I do believe that that's a really good solution for the areas where I grow in non-edibles, decorative plants. Because that's the way for me to be smart about my compost and about my organic fertilizers that I'm using in my garden. And the common critique of chemical fertilizers is actually that are not doing anything for our soil, and they're not improving the soil itself. They're just making some elements available for the plants to grow and to develop. But there's going to be another step, adding mulch. And that's the key, because mulch is going to break down. It will take time, it's going to be really slowly, and mulch, by breaking down, will become a compost eventually, and will become available for the plants to be utilized, and it will feed the soil that will feed then our plants. But in the meantime, yes, I'm using chemical fertilizers, especially for such heavy feeders as roses. And actually, this is the moment to use something specialized. For example, this fertilizer for my hydrangeas, that's a perfect moment to apply it. And now we are moving to step number 4, much less controversial, and that's organic fertilizers. And that's gonna be first and foremost compost, homemade compost. Then it can be manure, that can be broken down wood chips, it can be wood ashes, it could be different things, and all of them are super beneficial for your soil. They provide ant food for your soil life, and they improve the structure of your soil. And there are 2 big options how you can apply. You can apply it on top of your soil, or you can provide that on a root level by digging it into the ground. Sometimes people are using compost in the holes that they prepare before planting the plants, but if you have enough compost, I do believe that it's a good idea to put it on top of the soil. And actually, just because it usually takes a lot of time for your compost to get ready, or for the wood chips to be ready to be applied and to feed your plants, or for a horse manure or any other manure to be eaten enough to be in a form applicable and beneficial for the plants, this source of organic matter is super, in my own opinion, high valuable. That's why this source of organic matter is super valuable in your garden, and need to be smart by applying it. Usually I'm applying my compost for newly planted trees, and for my vegetable garden, and for my vegetable beds. Oh, and actually it's really important to remember that actually you can put everything in the ground, not only right now in the very beginning of your season, but and during the gardening season. Each and every time it will work its magic a little bit different on all the plants, but still it will work, so no pressure. And now we are moving to the step number 5, and that's gonna be mulch. And you can use straw, or you can use wood chips, or you can use a layer of compost that wasn't breaking down enough to be used as a compost itself. So yeah, you're applying a mulch on top of your soil. And if before that you prefer to work everything in and to dig the soil, so right now you need to put just a layer on top of everything. And that layer will prevent weeds from growing, because that will eliminate a lot of sunlight coming into the soil level where the seeds are growing. Plus, that will create the level that prevent water coming easily up. And actually, right now, if your soil is rather dry, I would suggest you to water everything in before putting mulch. So, let's start. And actually, we use a lot of mulch, and that's wood chips. We're using it and for the pathways, and for flower bed, and for newly created soft fruit garden. We use it everywhere. And actually, usually those wood chips are breaking down during 2 seasons. But even in the end of the first season, big portion, the small parts of the wood chips are already breaking down enough to create the layer of effectively of compost to bring goodness into the soil. So each and every time, that's probably the biggest job, because we have a big planting area here. And yes, that's gonna be the job for the several next days, probably even weeks. And in the end, what we are getting is just a really smart, really polished look for the whole garden. That's why it's like a cherry on top, and I really like this look. And yes, it takes quite a time to apply all those 5 steps to your whole garden, but it's so worth it. And actually, it makes your life really simple just to think through the stages. For example, this patch, I know that the step 1 weeding is done, then amendments are done, then my mineral fertilizers are done, then my compost is already here, and now the only thing is missing, that's my mulch, and that's gonna be the job for the next day. And I'm going through each area with this mindset and this framework that makes my life so much easy. And I really hope that that was useful for you as well. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I will be answering everything. And thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.